No prizes for guessing what this is. This is garlic. Now, garlic is an interesting herb. You either love it or you hate it. I happen to love it. But I do know people that don't, and so we have to work around that. We use other herbs instead of garlic for some folks. But I'm going to tell you the trick of how to take garlic as a medicine and still keep your friends. And when I say as a medicine, I actually do mean in really therapeutic doses. I'm going to tell you a little story about my husband. When we first got together, he took up swimming. And he was going to the local pool, and he got an ear infection. And it got pretty bad. He didn't tell me, so I didn't get to do anything until it got pretty bad. And he ended up going to ER at about 3 o'clock in the morning with ghastly ear pain. And it really, head in hand, moaning sort of pain. And they gave him an antibiotic, which didn't work at all. So a couple of weeks later, he's back at the ER, at which point they got him in to see an ear, nose, and throat specialist who said, oh, well, the antibiotic didn't work because you have a fungal infection. And here, take this antifungal, which didn't work at all. So finally, we're now about 3 weeks into it, and he's pretty miserable. And he finally said, you know what, you're a herbalist, can you help? And I'm like, oh, I thought you'd never ask. So my prescription to him, and bless him, he's a very, very compliant patient. My prescription to him was garlic, not in the ear, but taken orally. And I asked him to take a head of garlic twice a day. And yes, you did hear that correctly. That was a head of garlic twice a day. And the way he did it, and he did it every day for a month, and it completely cleared it up, and this is what I recommend to you again to keep your friends. You chop the garlic small. You put it on a spoon. I don't recommend a head to most of my patients. They're not going to do that. But a clove or two, if I think I'm getting a cold or if I'm going to be flying and exposed to other people's germs and what have you, I'll take a clove or two for several days in a row. You chop it up small. You put it on a spoon. And you put it to the back of your throat and swallow it with liquid of some sort, juice or whatever, without chewing. If you chew it, all those oils in the garlic go in the pores of your mouth and you taste it for the next few days, and all your friends know about it. But if you just swallow it down, especially if you do that at bedtime, it might repeat on you once or twice in the night. Nobody's going to know. Maybe get your partner to do it as well. And in the morning, it's just fine. You don't smell of garlic. It's very tolerable. Some people have a sensitive stomach. They might want to have a little bit of something starchy, a bite or two of bread or cracker or something, so that you don't have raw garlic on the stomach lining. It can be a little irritating. But in principle, that's an easy way to take it. Just one other little quirky thing about taking garlic is that, if you peel a clove of garlic, it doesn't smell that strong. It's not until you cut it that you really get the strong smell. And that is because the active compound in garlic is not active until it's had exposure to air. So you need to chop up your garlic and set it aside for 10 minutes before taking it as a medicine, even before putting it in your cooking. And you'll get more medicinal value. It literally there's an enzyme that is activated by exposure to oxygen, and it converts the compound in the garlic to its active form. So chop it up, set it aside, chop up the rest of your veggies for the spaghetti sauce. By the time you're ready for cooking, your garlic will be ready. It will be more medicinal. The other thing is a little bit like sage. It's the essential or volatile oils in the garlic that we're looking for. So if you put them in your spaghetti and the house smells fantastic and everyone comes in, oh, what's for dinner, Mum? It smells great. Well, guess what? It's all out there in the kitchen, in the air, instead of in the food. So you want to put your garlic in the pan, put the lid on, so that you capture all those volatile compounds so that they condense again inside the lid, drop back into the sauce. Yeah. Now, there's a few other things you can do with garlic, other ways of taking it. In our house, we actually consider garlic to be a vegetable. It's not a condiment. So we will regularly roast garlic and eat that as a vegetable, as a side dish. And I've been known to eat 3 or 4 heads in one sitting. You definitely taste of that afterwards. But you know what? It's totally worth it. But the other thing I like to do with garlic is I make honeys and I make vinegars and I make oils. So I'll peel the cloves, just cut them in half, not chopped up small, cut them in half, put them in a clean jelly jar, canning jar, and then put on either an apple cider vinegar or olive oil or honey. And I often put other things in there with my honeys. I'll put some cayenne peppers, whole chilies. I'll put sage leaves sometimes. I'll put peel, like lemon peel, strips of lemon peel. All kinds of spices and stuff go in there. And then you just set it aside for a couple of weeks. And the sugar in the honey pulls the juices out of the garlic. So the garlic kind of shrivels, the honey thins a little bit. And then you've got this amazing honey for marinades and salad dressings and sauces. And at the end, you've got this garlic, which is sort of slightly sweet, and you can put that into the cooking as well. The same with the vinegar, the same with the olive oil. Vinegars we do heat up to boiling point before pouring over. Olive oil, you don't have to do anything, just pour it over your garlic. And you don't really have to sterilize everything either, because the garlic's not sterile in itself. So as long as you're keeping it in the fridge, use it up within 2 or 3 weeks, you should be just fine. A couple of quirky things about garlic. We grow a huge amount of garlic. My husband and I have a 7-acre organic farm on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. We run a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture. So we have people that purchase shares in the farm every year, and they get a box of food every week for 20 weeks. So this year we grew 2,500 heads of garlic. That was down from 3,000 last year. Our climate is so damp that we have to rotate it through the beds. You can't go back to the same bed for 4 years because there's a fungus that will come in. And once it's in, you can't get rid of it. So we've had a lot of experience growing garlic, and one of the things that I've learned, which quite amazed me, quite surprised me, is that garlic has been cultivated for so long that it no longer is able to reproduce by the normal means of flowering. So the picture there, you're looking at that thinking, oh, that's a pretty garlic flower. Well, let me tell you, that's a false flower. There's no sexual parts in there. There's no male and female. Your garlic clones itself. So when that flower opens, inside, on the right-hand side, that's the flower head, so to speak, that will open up, and inside there are little tiny bulbils, like miniature garlic bulbs. Have any of you seen those? Have you let your garlic get to that point? You can actually pick these scapes, as they're called, these flowering heads, when they're young and tender. You can stir fry them, you can pickle them. They're really good pickled. But if you let them go to flower, what you'll get is lots and lots of tiny, tiny, tiny little garlic cloves. And yes, those can be planted. They're a clone of the parent, and they take about 3 years to reach maturity and give you another full bulb underground. But if you're in the business of growing garlic, that's the way you do it, because it's expensive to buy heads of garlic to plant into the ground. It's very expensive. So you take the time to grow out the little bulbils and plant those. So it's a false flower. It's not a real flower, kind of tricking us all.